is the current military standing of Ukraine right now in this conflict, and how effective have Ukrainian forces been in countering Russia?
Ukrainian forces have been remarkably effective against a Russian onslaught where they started out behind in all measurable categories 5-1. And I think most people were surprised that Russia wasn't able to pretty much immediately march into Kyiv from the north and move it from the east. It wouldn't be easy, but the Ukrainian military has been what I would call valiant in their ability to fight and show the world what they're capable of. But when you start out 5-1 and you continue the war as long as it has gone on, eventually something the size of Russia is going to start wearing you down. And there's a manpower shortage, there's an equipment shortage, everything in Ukraine that Russia does have a little bit of a problem as well, but not near as much as Ukraine. Russia is building momentum, capable of moving the Ukrainian forces to an extent. Zelensky needs to recognize the military reality on the ground, but Putin also needs to recognize the economic reality at home too. His economy is suffering, and his ally in China, by the way, has some severe problems going on economically and in their leadership, which looks to change soon. So when these two nations, Russia and China, kind of go into their corners of the boxing ring, per se, and decide to lick their own wounds before they can be effective allies again like they used to be when this thing started, that's part of the reason why I believe Russia is willing to come to the table now, and China is going to recognize the fact that, Russia and China have been enemies for a very, very long time. Hopefully they don't become one again, but they could, based on what is happening in both countries.
Now, Dr. Grant, I'm glad you brought up China, because I was talking to China expert Gordon Chang earlier in the show, and it's in his view that China actually wants this war to go on indefinitely. Would you be able to comment on what do you think China's stake is in this war?
Well, Gordon Chang is very insightful. And of course, what China likes is having Russia as a partner in global confrontation. This is sucking up the attention of NATO and absorbing U.S. arms. And China just likes to have this challenge going on. I can't imagine really why they wanted to support Putin, but they have from the very beginning. Of course, China buys 47% of Russia's oil. But look at what's going back into Russia. That includes nitrocellulose, which makes explosives, microelectronics. Russia buys all of some of its key rare earths from China, if you can believe that. And so without Chinese support, they couldn't continue their economy or their arms manufacturing. And in return, China gets a lot of military cooperation. We saw the naval exercises a couple of weeks ago, and they're both building up their nuclear arsenals, flying nuclear-capable bombers together. So China likes having this partnership with Russia. I don't think they like the Russians, but they like the partnership to bedevil the U.S. and the West.
Okay, Colonel Cobb, we just have about 60 seconds left. Maybe you can just elaborate on that point. What is China's stake in this? What does it want in the end from this war?
I think I could add only a little bit to what Dr. Grant said, but ultimately China's stake in this war is a distracted United States who's pivoted more towards Europe again rather than the Pacific theater, and leaving China free to execute more of their plan regarding the expansion of their economic leverage through multiple locations, including like the Belt and Road Initiative and other things. Now, some of that is failing or having severe problems, but that's part of the reason why China's perfectly happy to have us be distracted the way we have been. Hopefully that will change very soon.
Okay, that's all the time we have for today's conversation. Again, thank you both for coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm excited. That's an excited praise. I'm clapping sometimes, I'm crying sometimes. I miss my friends in Austin, and I'm looking forward to meeting new ones here. I'm just trying to tell you that sometimes the cliches that we use oversimplify the depth of the human experience. And excited both feel like sweaty palms. Anxious and excited both put butterflies in your stomach. But whether those butterflies are a burden or a blessing depends on which one you lean into.
Nice. Pick the worst spot in the world to leave this lime piece of junk. Are you a lawnmower parent where you go down, cut down all the tall grass and weeds so your child don't have to walk in it? Let them learn how to walk in tall grass by themselves. Uh-oh, police brutality. He pulled somebody over. Well, that's how a lot of people look at it. You pulled me over, it's police brutality. Ah.
Qualify as an Espionage Act. I think it probably could be a conspiracy to violate classified information rules. We reported based on an IG report that came out in 2024 that there was this whistleblower there. But what we didn't know until there were these documents out was how much detail the FBI had been given about a wide-ranging conspiracy with specific allegations, with specific names and times and places that the FBI had. And instead of fully investigating and prosecuting that when they were given the information, the FBI instead lawlessly, based on nonsense from Democrat staffers on the same committee, went and spied on Republican staffers in both the House and the Senate for years and then tried to cover it up. So it's just fascinating to see what the previous FBI investigated and didn't. As far as timing, I don't expect anything particularly quickly. This DOJ, I think, is looking at things differently than past DOJs, where they're trying to learn all the documentary facts and evidence, which takes time because they have to go through the mounds of documents that were hidden from them for years. They have to interview low-level witnesses and learn what they can say about the documentary picture. And then they'll eventually have to bring in the big dogs and interview them. So I would expect a multi-month process, maybe even a year-long process, before we really get to the point of indictments.
So, newly declassified top secret emails sent on December 22nd, 2016. Now, remember, that is during the lame duck period. This is critical, okay? So, Donald Trump has won the presidency. He is in transition. And this is during the transition at Trump Tower. This is the framing and the timing is important here. The newly declassified top secret emails showed that complying with President Trump's order to create the manufactured 2017 ICA about Russia expose, how DNI James Clapper demanded the intelligence community fall in line behind the Russia hoax. Clapper admits that it was a team sport that required compromise on our normal modalities. What on earth does that mean?
Well, I think it means that Clapper and Brennan and Comey were breaking the rules. They were ignoring the process. They were cutting corners, and they were doing it all in furtherance of a narrative which they knew to be false. And bravo to Tulsi Gabbard for finding this information and getting it out there, because we've suspected it for a long time. We knew that Brennan cooked the books when it came to the ICA. We knew that he was putting in garbage, so-called evidence, that he was the one who put in the Steele dossier because, quote, it rings true, doesn't it? He's the one who lied to Congress about whether it was in the ICA. But now we have information about Clapper himself basically trying to hijack the process to get to a particular endpoint, not based on the evidence, but based on what he had been ordered to do and what he wanted to do. And we now know exactly, by the way, why Clapper and Brennan were calling for NSA Director Mike Rogers to be fired in late 2016. And it's because, based on these emails, we now know that he was, although he eventually signed on to the sham process, that he was highly skeptical of what they were doing, and that his analysts didn't actually believe that the evidence that these people were using was sufficient to support the claims they were making.
Chuck Schumer, in a rare, vulnerable moment, was obviously angry because, remember, Donald Trump was getting whispers about this. This is very important. So Donald Trump was working in transition, and there was chatter. And so Donald Trump was getting whispers about, hey, like the CIA is doing some goofy stuff, incoming President Trump. So he starts tweeting about it. And we can go find it. And everyone said, oh, my goodness, Donald Trump's attacking the intel community. How dare he do this? And then Chuck Schumer did a mask-off moment. Play cut 446.
To take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And we need the intelligence community. We don't know what's going on. Look at the Russian hacking. Without the intelligence community, we wouldn't have discovered it.
Do you think he has an agenda to try to dismantle parts of the intelligence community? I mean, this form of
Let me tell
taunting
you,
hostility.
whether you're a super liberal Democrat or a very conservative Republican, you should be against dismantling the intelligence community.
Woo!
Yeah.
And you got a little nose touch at the end, little like, that clip right there is that is a master class what was happening. Let me go through the 3 parts and we'll continue after the break. Number 1, he does a threat, shot across the bow. You better be careful, President Trump. Number 2, he interjects the Russia thing. Oh, if it wasn't for the intel community, we wouldn't know about Russia. And the third component is basically we work for the intel agencies. That's basically what Chuck Schumer, who was a representative of the Article 1 legislative branch, basically like, you better not touch them. They run this super government. Sean Davis, 40 seconds.
Well, Schumer was correct. We saw that during the COVID thing. We saw it during the Russia collusion hoax. We saw it during the Ukraine impeachment hoax. Recall, the intel community cooked up a complaint against Trump that he wasn't listening to them, and they used that as the basis to try to impeach him. So yeah, Chuck Schumer in that clip laid out the entire game. You work for them, they call the shots, and if you at any point think you're in charge, they'll take you out, and that's what they tried.
Stay there, Sean Davis. So someone threw something at a federal law enforcement officer, and we found out who it was. Very important, very telling information.